What's going on, everyone? Chris here with clutter reduction junk removal, and I wanted to just kind of go over a few things in this video. There's not going to be any fun action clips or moving stuff around. It's going to be more changes that I'm going to be making. Some of them are things I've been talking against for the last couple of years, but we're switching things up, I guess. I do want to talk about voicemails, Google Ads. I know I don't like Google Ads, but we're doing Google Ads. Google Ads, going over some recent information I've kind of learned through a couple of different sources, and some changes I think I'm going to be kind of making just in the long term, and then kind of pushing forward with kind of getting everything ready for the summer and why. So, right off the back, I want to talk about a voicemail tip that I kind of learned recently from a realtor, which applies to all businesses, but it's a way to kind of keep your voicemail just very simple and quick. And what you're doing is you're not apologizing for missing a call, because you're going to have other things going on. You don't have to apologize and make this long, big, stretch of a voicemail. So the voicemail reads, in my point of view, "Hi, this is Chris with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal. Thank you for your call. Leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you at my earliest opportunity." So, and like when you do it, try to have energy and enthusiasm as if you're happy that they're calling you, which you should be, because that's going to be business for you. But the point of kind of keeping it real concise and not saying, "Sorry, I missed your call, I was so and so," you're lying, right? You're like right off the bat, you're already lying to your new customer. So you're announcing who you are. And you're saying, "Thank you for your call. Leave your information. I'll call you back at my earliest opportunity." So not my earliest convenience, because you don't want to make it seem like, "Oh, you're not convenient to me." It's your earliest opportunity that you have to call them back. You're gonna call them back. Now, you should do everything you can to avoid getting to your voicemail. You want to answer every call, because people are so impatient nowadays that the moment that thing hits that final tone, they're just going to hang up and move on to the next person. And just like that, you not only lost a job, but you lost a referral, you lost a review, and you lost a repeat client. And you never know when that job could be the $10,000 job or something crazy like that. So that's one thing that I kind of just learned from a YouTube video. I'll go ahead and link the description down below so you can check it out for yourself. It's for realtors, but it applies to all businesses. The next thing is, I've been watching a lot of JRA recently. I've watched them in the past when I first started, back when I was watching them in Sonoma, but I've been binging JRA lately. Like, I made a playlist of 62 videos last night, and I made it through 3/4 of it before I made my phone call with Andrew Thompson, which we'll get into in a moment. But they have a ton of really useful information over the years, and they have someone, Melissa Suto, who is their booking expert and sales coach. She has really short videos, but they're all regarding like customer service and phone technique, and they're super informative, and she's very quick and concise and very well spoken and just easy to understand. So I highly recommend checking that out. But she made a lot of really good points regarding kind of handling customers. Like when you're booking hoarder jobs, try to be sensitive and don't say hoarder unless they say it first, things like that. When you're handling property damage, or when you have a large job and they're trying to get like a price out of you, how to kind of avoid it, but then not avoid it at the end to kind of still please the customer, but you're not shooting yourself in the foot, and how to kind of handle minimum load prices, stuff like that. So all very good tips. I do recommend checking that out. I think it'll go a long way. They also made a few notes, a few things I kind of noted was trying to work with different revenue streams, like small remodelers versus big construction guys. You want to go for both, but the small like remodel guys are usually just doing like one bathroom or like one portion of the house, and they're the ones that don't have the means to go out and load up all this stuff and get rid of it, or it's not worth it to get a dumpster or a bin for a vanity and a toilet and then a couple bags of tile. So that's where you could go in, clean it out real quick, and you can get repeat business that way. The other thing too is for local government to look into code enforcement and local housing authority for lower income, and then the health department, which handles hoarder situations. So I never really thought about that for code enforcement, but they're the ones that kind of drive around and say, "Hey, you have all that crap outside your house or your office building or your retail store. You need to clean that up. We're going to give you a couple warnings, and then we're going to have someone come out and take it away from you." So there's a lot of that in South Florida. We're very HOA heavy, and we're very heavy on code enforcement That's why it's hard for me to put out yard signs. I'm very particular with how I put out yard signs. I don't do private property. I don't do housing unless it's a client and I have permission. It's very intersection based and certain plazas and certain like outskirts of the plaza. I don't mess with the city. They also made a really cool point I thought was kind of interesting, which was donating furniture to local fire departments that use it for the training facilities. I never thought about that, but it could save a lot of money on dumping. And I'd rather go to them than to Goodwill, which will likely just toss half the stuff you donate anyways because they don't have the room for it. But I don't know if that's a thing up north or if that applies everywhere, but I'm going to give it a shot. Worst case, they might think it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. He's like offering it though, and I can network with them a little bit. But I have a ton of notes, but those are just some of the few things I really wanted to just push out there because I thought they were interesting or relatable. JRA has a video on property management. You can just type in property management, it should pop up. But they recommend to email property management places versus going there in person or calling them. If you've seen me for a while, you know I'm more of a in-person kind of guy, and I like to go to these places physically and talk to the people and give them my card and my information and network with them that way. And I will say I can attest that I do think the email would be a good route because I've gone to a lot of places where the person I want to talk to is not there, they're not available, whatever the situation. I give my cards to the front desk, the concierge, an assistant. I don't think half the time it ever makes it to that person personally. I think I'm just seen as another solicitor. And or I get thrown out. So I do think it would be beneficial to do the emails. They recommend going to LinkedIn, finding the point of contact and then emailing them, and keep it kind of quick and short, and then just do a follow-up every 2 weeks and just keep it short but kind of vary the message each time, and stick to a smaller group versus doing like to everyone in your county so you can better manage how you're like networking with them. So I do think that, hey Bubs, that could be a more beneficial route. And I think I'm going to use that for storage units as well, and maybe even some apartment buildings, because everyone checks their emails. It's just sometimes it gets buried in spam or in mass. Like my girlfriend gets 120 emails a day as a property manager, so messages get kind of hidden. So doing that every 2 weeks and doing follow-ups is how you can kind of help stand out. But I'll go ahead and read off the script they recommend, but of course check out the video and make your own. It would go like this if it was coming from me. Hi, I'm Chris, owner of Clutter Reduction Junk Removal. We offer same or next day full service junk removal services for property management companies in the area. We help them get their home back on the market ASAP. I wanted to inquire how we might be able to get added to your vendor list so we are ready when you're ready for us. So super simple. I probably would have had a whole damn paragraph. But I do think that that would be a beneficial route for the exact thing I just mentioned, as far as you're not always going to be able to get there in person. Now, I will say that if it's one thing if you're just going in your truck, but if your truck has a wrap on it, as you're traveling around networking to these places, you're also marketing your business as a kind of like a ghost route. You're branding your truck. So I don't think there's a total loss to it, but it definitely would save a lot of time and energy. And that is something I'm trying to focus into more prominent areas of my marketing this year. Andrew Thompson. If you have not watched him on YouTube, check him out. He's Jedi Junk Removal. He's a super informative guy. He's very tech savvy. He's been successful from an early age. He's really played around in different industries and different businesses. And he's overall just a super nice guy, very well informative. But I reached out to him if he could kind of chit chat with me real quick about Google Ads. And he did very easily and was very informative and polite about it. And I was just like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing when it comes to Google Ads. It's super confusing. I get the core concept of it, but to like make it not waste the money is super confusing. And I believe he's going to make a video pretty soon talking about it more in depth. Basically all the questions I was asking him, but in a more intricate scale. So watch out for that video. But I was basically just trying to get a grasp of what to do and to how not to lose a shit ton of money, because that's always been my fear with Google Ads is I'm competing with the companies and the other franchises in my area, because I looked up junk removal in my county, and by the way, my county is rounded up to 1.5 million people just for the county alone. And I looked up junk removal on like Google Maps, and it brought up 218 pages of 20 listing per page. And I went through about 16 pages of that, and I would say about 75% of them are still active, and the rest of them are kind of like they have like one review, or like they're inactive, or they're closed or something. So let's just assume, I mean, that's 4,500 companies. So let's just assume at least three-quarters of them are still active, give or take. And that's just the ones that are registered. That's not including the guys that go out with a pickup truck and say, "Yeah, I'll get your couch for $20." So I was basically just trying to get information about how to not lose a bunch of money. And he was very informative about it. He said basically just start off by building a campaign, and you're going to be heavily focused in keywords and your negative keywords. That's the thing that costs people the most money is they'll advertise for junk removal, and then someone's going to go look up where to recycle chemicals, and your company's going to pop up, and then they're going to call you, and you just paid for that call. So that's where like it screws people over. Or you'll get looked up in other places that you don't even service, or like for donation companies or free junk removal. Like you don't want those things to be listed for you, otherwise you're gonna be paying for stuff you don't want to be paying for. So he said those are like the main things you really have to push for, and then just every day you have to check your ads to see, what are people searching for. If you don't like it, put it in your negative keywords. If you do like it, put it in your keywords. And just you have to do that to the point where you're very satisfied with how you're being approached by other customers. And then from there, you can start with the conversions and really getting people to kind of push over to your landing page and to make your phone calls or your email form submission or whatever. And he was saying that a good thing to do would be to spend a month just building the campaign, building your audience, where you want to go to, building multiple ad copies, doing your keywords, your negative keywords, setting up your daily budget. And then when you're ready to go, hit play. And, set aside $1,500, $3,000 a month in the beginning, and be prepared to just lose it all. Because the first month is more of Google gathering data of how they're going to place you for these different ads. And then that's when you'll start kind of getting the ball rolling. So I found that to be all super informative. I know about keywords, and I kind of understood the negative keywords, but I didn't understand kind of the full extent of it, and or just overall like what's the best route to take. So that's what this is. So very appreciative, Andrew. Thank you. And again, check out his channel. As far as my business goes, I talked about it in the last video. I had two crossroads I was kind of thinking of taking, either the self-service route where I'm doing trailer rentals and things like that, and I'm not having to worry about hiring out employees. I just want to run stuff on my own, because at the end of the day, me having full control and not having to worry about everything else going on is still a pleasing idea to me, even if I'm not making millions of dollars. The other route was, which is basically what my closest brother's route is. He has a business where he does carpet cleaning and floor restoration and stuff like that, and he does pretty well. And he is the operations manager, and then he has like a crew of like 4 to 5 guys. Some of them are part-time, some are full-time, but he deals on a more high-end client base, but that's sufficient for him, and he does pretty well, right? He's running the background stuff of things, and he has guys go out and do the jobs, and every now and then he'll pop out and do a job. But that's kind of like, I guess, a route that I would want to take as well. And that's been one of my initial routes, was to hire out a crew where they can run the trucks, and I'm doing more operations. And every now and then I might want to hop on a truck and help out a big job, or if someone has a call out or something happens, or someone quits or gets fired or whatever. And then at that point, when that's sufficient enough that I can hire out a manager to take my place, and I just really go on the back end, at that point, I feel like that's where your freedom kind of comes in a little bit more, because now you're not doing that day-to-day work. Now you're just running the background. You're putting in more of the vision, and you're looking at the alternative routes for things you want to market for, and you're just pushing that off to your manager, and you're making the background things happen. So I do still want to go the self-service route, though. I do still want to do the trailer rentals and stuff like that, but I think that will just be another service, and that's something where I could utilize, like I could go do the driving for that and drop them off while doing operations and having other guys run trucks. So I know this is kind of a sensitive subject, but I do try to be transparent on this channel, and that is business loans. So I'm thinking of getting a business loan and utilizing it to pay down a little bit of a balance I have that ran over from last year for something I don't want to talk about, and then go ahead and get a dump trailer and set aside some money for marketing, and then set aside some money for reserves, and then set aside some money for an employee. This isn't a crazy amount, by the way, but it's enough to get me like going. And like I feel like as a single person business that spent the first almost 2 years running this part-time, not putting a lot of focus into it, I really only did the majority of the focus the last 6 months of last year, because that's when I left the moving. And I feel like I could have done a lot better with progressing the business, but I'm content with it. And now, I also think that's the problem is I haven't had a desperate moment yet where it's like, crap, how am I going to pay for rent this month? How am I going to pay for my bills? How am I going to pay for the business bills? I haven't had that month yet. And I think that's kind of been an issue as well, is I don't have that drive to go out and get that extra stuff done because I don't need to. So I kind of did a lot thinking about it, and I have family and like financial background, so I can always double check with them as far as like the appropriate loan to get and like the kind of interest and like what to use it for and the best way to just not screw myself over and have to go into more legal issues. But I'm thinking of doing it to kind of go over the factors I just mentioned. But the reason why is I want to be ready by the spring and summer, right? I want to have a guy hired, even maybe two if possible. Like I want to be prepared because last year, and keep in mind, like the first 6 months, I was still working at the movie company. I was putting in very little effort. I was just doing jobs on the side here and there with U-Hauls. I didn't get my truck until April, and I didn't quit the moving company until I think like late May, early June. So July was like my $10,000 month, or August, one of the two, was like a $10,000 month, and I did it all by myself. I only had help one time, and it was on that big office job I had, and it was only on the fourth load I did where I had the 26-foot U-Haul, and I had 1 hour to load up as much as possible because I had to be out there by 7, and I didn't get there until almost 6. So I had him come out just to help me load up as much as possible in that 1 hour. So, like, I was by myself for that month, and it was a lot of work. And I had a couple of other months that were pretty close to that month. Not at the 10,000 mark, but it was pretty close. It was like 6 and 8, which for me is a really good month. And like I did everything myself, and I think it's doable, but I don't want to take that route again. So I want to make sure I can have more of a team where I can really advertise and really push for like everything that I want the business to be, and I can really just focus on that. So that's the goal for this year is game plan of like how I want to market and who I want to market to. I'm just going to be adding in the Google ads, but I think the crossroads have been met, and they basically just went like this and came back. So I think we're going to be merging it, and it's going to be a whole new journey. I'm going to be venturing into territory I didn't want to originally venture into, but it's what I think it's going to be a good call. And the beauty of having a business is you can always close up shop and start a new one the next day. So, welcome to the America life. But that's it for me. I just wanted to mention those few tips I got, a little bit of information I've been fed, and then the kind of game plan heading into the future with not only the business, but obviously the channel. And that's it. So, I hope everyone is having a better January than I am. I started off really well. My first 15 days were perfect. I was on mark to hit my little $1,000 mark, $100,000 mark for the year, and then I just kind of died out. But apparently everyone's been pretty slow in January. So hopefully you guys are doing well though. Thanks for watching. Bye.